Welcome to Season 2 of the Talkin Yotes podcast. Don't forget to drop them. Here is your host, Jason Bird.
Hey everybody, welcome to Talkin Yotes. Tonight I got on Chris Robinson with the Night Crew. How we doing today, Chris?
Doing great, man. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, I
Hope I don't
appreciate.
let you down.
Yeah, no, I highly doubt it. Like I said, we talked a little bit before this. I really enjoy your guys' content, and it's really crazy to me how much in my mind it seems like a light shining out there would deter a critter away from you, but it's nuts how close you guys get them.
Yeah, that's kind of part of it for us. That's probably the main goal is to try to get them as close as possible and then put as much light on them as possible to try to get the best footage for you guys to watch. But there's a whole lot more that goes into it than what you see across the TV screen, as far as just from getting from point A to B. But once we find the right one and we get them committed, I mean, we can usually get them up there pretty close unless we screw something up, which is happens all the time.
Yeah.
So sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chris, you want to give a little bit of a background on yourself and a little bit of a background on the Night Crew? November 21st, 2026, we're going to be hosting the second annual Midwest Coyote Pursuit Coyote Calling Tournament. 24-hour tournament, 10 a.m. to 10 a.m. on the 22nd. One full day in the field to call, hunt, and compete against some of the best predator hunters around the Midwest. Grab your partner, hit the ground running, and see what you can bring in before the time runs out. Get signed up now. Check us out on our Facebook page.
Yeah, I guess first question is how far back do you really want to go? Because I mean, this could go on for a minute if I go too far back, but I can kind of give you the short and sweet version of it if you like.
Yeah, either way, I'm open to whatever.
I guess let me start off when we first really started filming. Was back in 2006. And back then, it was pretty much before the days of thermal. Obviously, there was a handful of thermal out there, but it wasn't really kind of in the consumer side of things just yet for the most part. But back then, we were basically we were doing a lot of predator contests. And me and a buddy were like, if we could just ever figure out a way to take this fun that we're having and the action that we're seeing and experiencing while we're out, it would be awesome if we could somehow capture that to be able to try to convey that through video to show people how much fun this stuff is. Well, when we first started, we were kind of like, okay, well, let's just go and look and see what's out there. And there were a handful of guys out there that were doing nighttime videos and stuff like that. But um, my biggest problem is that I never really was satisfied with just seeing like a set of eyeballs out there under a red light and then a coyote or a bobcat or something getting shot at 100 yards. And the next thing you know, there's a guy walking up with a white light where you can see them up close after they've already been shot. And to me, that was not really translating across the screen, the fun part of it. So we were like, okay, well, how can we do better? That was kind of our goal, is how can we make a DVD that is different than the stuff that's kind of come before what we tried to do. And for the first 2 or 3 years, it was basically nothing but failure after failure after failure. And the main reason was because no matter how good your camera is, if you're shining a red light at something in the middle of the nighttime, those cameras, even a high-end camera, they're designed to have ample light to be able to function properly. So we were calling in coyotes and bobcats and stuff to 10, 15 yards, and the footage just still looked like crap. I was just never really satisfied with it. So if I'm going too deep, just tell me. I'll shut
Oh
up.
no, I love hearing this
Uh,
stuff.
so we were like, okay, I know there's some guys that were doing some filming with some white lights. So I thought to myself, we're never going to get past the light issue unless we can figure out a way to where we can film them with the white light to give the camera enough light to be able to function properly. Well, one night back then we were using I think it was a 240 light force light, and it was literally about the size of a pie plate. It was huge. So we decided, and they had a red filter that came with the light that popped on the end of it. And at the time, I told the guys I was hunting with, I said, let's just leave that filter at the house. And whatever happens, happens. We're either going to run every coyote out of the country, or we're going to figure something out that there's no point in keeping on filming like we had been because it was never going to give us what we were really after. So the first stand we pulled up in this pasture, hit the call, guy that was shining, he was scanning around. Usually when we start out on a stand, we'll be scanning 360 degrees really fast just to pick up eyes. Well, sure enough, 15, 20 seconds in, we pick up eyes coming up over a hill. And the guy on the light, he went to pull the light up off of him, kind of like he was a little bit intimidated or nervous about it. And I was like, no, put it back down on him, just see what he does. So he lowered the beam, the main beam of light onto this coyote, and it never broke stride. He was in fifth gear coming as fast as he could come. And immediately the quality of the video just went through the roof compared to what it was the previous years. Well, long story short, we got that coyote up 15, 20 yards and shot it with a shotgun and smoked it. And it was like, okay, we can do this. If we find the right coyote, we can get them to come to a white light. So all the stuff that we had ever been told for the last 20 years, it's like we're starting to question, you got to have a red light to be able to call up and kill a coyote and so on and so forth. Well, that's a whole nother story for another day. But after we figured out the white light deal, we got to the point where we filmed for a whole nother year with just a handheld white light. And the video went from being bad, mediocre at best to decent with a guy holding a light and the camera. So you got two things going on at the same time, but neither of them were ever in sync. So what we ran into is we were like, okay, we would get an animal up close, and right whenever the gun went off, before suppressors, a cannon was about to get turned loose. So as soon as the gun went off, the guy on the light would inevitably just jump. And you'd end up losing the most important part of the video, which would be the kill. So I'm like, okay, well, how do we fix that? So I was like, why don't we figure out a way to where no matter what the light guy does that's over here holding a handheld light, he could be up there shining the moon, but the camera's always going to have a light no matter where it's looking. So I wish I had a picture of this thing. We built it was the first, I guess, the first rendition of the light rigs and stuff that we run these days, but it literally looked like Iron Man. The first version of Iron Man, it was like just big and bulky. It weighed a metric ton, and it was the only way that I could think of to basically mount something to the tripod to hold a light essentially right underneath the video camera to where whenever you zoomed up on an animal, no matter where you pointed it, there was always going to be a light in the frame. And but what we didn't know.
Hey everybody, just taking a quick second away from the podcast here to talk to you about our partnership that we have over at Yote Drags. Built by hunters for hunters. If you're serious about predator hunting, you know the work doesn't stop after the shot. Yote Drags makes hauling your coyote out quick, easier, and way less brutal on your back. Tough, compact, and field proven. It's gear that actually earns its spot in your pack. Head over to yotedrags.com and use code MCP15 at checkout to save 15% on your order. That's MCP15. Get your drags, save your back, and make the haul a whole lot easier.
Is whether we could get away with two lights because we had never tried it before. So, I mean, you know how it is. You get accustomed to doing something and you're like, okay, well, I think it'll work, but until you've proven to yourself that it's going to work, you never really know.
Mhm.
So what we did is we decided, okay, well, the plan was when we went out is whoever's shining, back then that was before wicked lights and stuff like we use now, like we're the headlamps and stuff. It was always a handheld halogen spotlight, and usually they were on dimmers and stuff back then to where we can, run them just bright enough to pick up eyes and stuff. Well, the plan is basically once we got an animal in the main light, as long as they kept coming, like the first cow we shot did, we would turn the camera light on and just basically like doing a handoff. We were going to go from this light to this light. This light goes away, and then the stationary light that's on the camera would be the main light that's working the animal in close for the video. Well, whenever we did that, the guy that was on the handheld light was so used to staying on the animal. This cow we called for a little bit, and we had a cow pop up, and the first few seconds it was kind of hesitant, not the cow, but we were kind of hesitant because we didn't know what he was going to do whenever these two lights over here are shining him. Well, lo and behold, we got the camera light on, and the handheld light is still on the animal. So you can see the video of this coyote coming in. I've got a donut of light right in the middle of the frame. And then there's a handheld light just bouncing all over the place. But the one that's in the middle, the one that's attached to the camera, was solid as a rock. And like right then, whenever we knew that we could do that with multiple lights, it was like that was kind of the changing point from where it went from decent video with the white light to we're on to something. And it's different than anything else that we had seen up to that point. So from that point, we were like, okay, well, we've gotten away with one camera light, but I still wasn't really happy with the way the video looked because you had this black image and you had this donut of light right in the center of the video. So you're losing all the stuff that they're coming through to get from where they're at to the truck at that point in time. So it's like, I wonder what would happen if we were to put a light to the left of that light and a light to the left of that one. So this would be like the second version of these light rigs and stuff that we built. Um, and again, we thought it would work, but we didn't know for sure. So this was kind of at the tail end of getting done with the second DVD that we did. And we called, I think the first animal we called up with it was a big cat. And we called it up super close, got really cool video, but it was the first time you can actually see an entire frame. Like when you're looking at a 16:9 TV screen, it's lit up from one side to the other. And what people didn't realize is that at the time it was like they're only looking at one light at a time. So like when you're standing out there as an animal, you're still only looking at that one light, and they're being blinded by the one that's in the middle, as long as they're in the center of the frame. And there's still a light to the left and the right that's really not shining them. It's just shining all the stuff around them for the video. So at that point, it was like, okay, this is definitely something that's really neat. It's something different. And I was finally getting to the point where it's like, okay, I'm feeling good about the original goal, which was basically trying to translate how much fun we have onto the screen to where people are like, it may inspire them to want to go try it, you know? And it's still before thermal. This was probably back in like, I don't know, maybe 2009, 2008, 2009 time frame. And am I rambling? I'll shut
No,
up.
no, no.
No,
I'm digging all this stuff. I mean, like I mentioned before the podcast, up here in Iowa, you cannot shine a light out. I've
it's
watched.
foreign.
Yeah, absolutely it
Yeah.
is. So yeah,
Well,
all this is sweet to me.
what's crazy about Texas is the fact Texas is probably it is the biggest night hunting state out there. And to this day, there's still a bunch of guys that are still running lights in certain parts of the state and stuff like that. And I can kind of get into the reasons why later, but um, as far as the lighting concerned, we kind of figured out, okay, well, the lighting at that aspect is pretty much as much light as I can find to put on an animal that I know is the right animal. To this day, we still have not found an amount of light that will keep the ones that are committed, not before we turn the camera lights on, but once you get them committed to your scanning light, usually if as long as they keep coming when you hit them with it, those animals will put up with an extreme amount of light. In fact, we've actually found it works better to have more light on those animals because it blinds them so much, it disorients them, and they can't tell like if they're 50 yards from it or if they're 5 feet from it. So like for instance, we'll have like somebody go and pick up a coyote after we shot it 30, 40 yards in front of the light, and then they'll start walking back into it and they'll nearly run the camera over because it's so blinding. They don't know. It's, and a coyote and a cat and stuff, they act the same exact way. So all their, and again, people ask us all the time, it's like, well, how do you get those animals to come into that big bright light like that? Well, you got to remember they're not coming to a light, they're coming to a sound.
Yep.
So once they've been triggered and they've got that instinct to go to that sound source, the light, as long as they haven't been educated to it, and that's the whole key with a coyote. And there's in our area, there's not a whole lot of in between. It's either a coyote that's seen it and been educated to it, or they are totally oblivious to it and they're going to come running all the way to you. And usually you're going to find that out when you initially hit them with that headlamp these days. They're either going to turn inside out and do a backflip trying to get out of the county, or they're just going to keep coming like nothing's different. There's no difference. those are the ones that you end up seeing on the show and stuff, to where they get right up in her lap and they come up and smile with their tongue out and whatnot. But at any rate, so let me backtrack. I'm getting off course here. So we got the DVD, the second DVD done, and about that time frame, we were visiting. We actually attended a show in Texas called the Texas Trophy Hunters Association. It was a big deal. It's still a pretty big deal that they had out of Fort Worth every year. And we had a booth set up, and in the booth, we built this kind of a built-in flat screen that had nothing but just content after content rolling on it the whole time. And the amount of people that were stopping to watch it, there was no sound, there was no nothing. It was just video of coyotes and bobcats up really, really close where you could see them really well. It was just like a magnet. And we knew at that point, it was like, okay, this is something different. People obviously are noticing there's something different about the way this looks, because they had never seen stuff like that before then. Um, well, while we were there, a guy by the name of Gary Robertson came by. I don't know if you've ever heard of Gary,
Oh
but
yeah.
he owns Burnham Brothers. And this was in 2000, I want to say 2009 at this stage. Well, he walked by the booth and stopped, and long story short, when I was 8 years old, I actually met Murray Burnham. He actually came to a church function here that we had. My dad got to be pretty good friends with him, and that's how I knew of Burnham Brothers. Well, in between then and 2010, Gary Robertson bought Burnham Brother Calls, and I was always a big fan, still am. And he came by, and I knew immediately who he was. I was like, "Hey, Gary, how you doing?" And he's like, "I'm doing great." And the whole time he never looked at me. He was just watching the screen, the video and stuff that was going on the screen. And he was like, "You guys are actually shining white lights on these animals?" I'm like, "Well, that was the only way we could get video of them." And he was just like, "I have never seen video that looked like that." I'm like, "Well, that was our goal. We're trying to bring something new to the table that hasn't really been, to our knowledge, hasn't really ever been done to that point." And he's like, "Give me a minute." We left and he came back. When he came back, he had one of their new callers, and he said, "We want you guys to basically go and do all of our nighttime stuff for a new show we're about to come out with called Carnivore." And back then, I'm like, all we want to do is make a DVD at this point. We're like, "You mean we're actually going to be able to do something on TV?" That's back then, that's what we're thinking. And I'm like, "Hell yeah, we'll be glad to." So, in a nutshell, and a short version of that, for the next 4 years, we went out like we usually did, and we learned a lot through this whole process, just about how TV and stuff works. And it was a great learning experience. We would go and get video. We would send the video to their producer. The producer there would take it and cut it and do everything he needed to build the shows and stuff around it. And it was kind of funny. The very, very, very first episode, which we got a lot of flack for this, but it wasn't our idea. It was their idea. It was basically to make this big ordeal about the secrecy behind this big light rig that these guys concocted. And yeah, it was something at the time that we were kind of keeping under wraps, but they made a big deal out of it. And a lot of guys were just like, "Man, y'all need to show that light rig, show us how this thing works, and this, that, and the other." And they never one time showed it for 4 years on Carnivore, just because they were trying to milk the whole, not the secrecy behind this big light. Well, to this day, there's still guys that are bringing that up. Well, long story short, we ran for 4 years with them. Well, we finally got the point. I was kind of messing around with some editing, and I was like, I like the way that they're doing the show. Nothing against Carnivore, but I wanted to have something that was, from a show aspect, was like our own identity. And when I mean that, what I mean when I say that is, we basically wanted to have the format of the show be a certain way. We wanted it to be narrated. We wanted it to have a different story every week, basically a theme each and every week, to where you wouldn't know as a viewer, like when you go and you see it pop up on your dish. Well, I've already seen the last 10 episodes, and every one of them was exactly the same. It's like the same cow coming over the same hill over and over. There's only so many ways that you can show that to keep people's interest and wanting to keep them coming back. So we for the next couple of years we worked on getting enough sponsors to be able to go and take the big leap and essentially start our own deal. And that's where Night Crew from a show aspect really kind of became what it is back in I think it was 2016. uh, that was the very first season of Night Crew on Sportsman's Channel, and now we're basically going into our 11th season. And it's been a hell of a good time. I've got some really good guys that if I didn't have with me that to do this stuff, Gary and Ronnie, they're like a huge part of what we do, and we I couldn't do it without them. I'm always the guy that's actually this is probably the most video time I've probably got in the last 2 years. I'm always the guy behind the camera because I don't I mean I've ran the thing so much it's like I they know that I'm probably the most experienced one there, and I know they know what we need to get as well as anybody. So when we get one coming, we're not having to like, okay, what do I do? Because everybody knows what their job is. Once we get the right one coming, we know exactly what to do from beginning to end. And it just kind of works out that way. So hats off to them that if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't be able to do any of this stuff, you know. So, but um, as far as the show is concerned, we wanted to have it to where it had something completely different every week, and on top of that, basically have a storyline, add really the best quality footage we can put on top of that. And then basically make it to where people don't know what they're going to see from week to week. And it's kind of been a good recipe, you know, for to continue to keep on. Our sponsors like to come back, and that's always a positive thing. So they're doing apparently well with it. So we're just going to keep trucking along and try to keep doing what we've been doing and hope it just keeps working out
Yeah,
until it becomes a job. Then when it does that, we'll probably retire and just start keep killing stuff. We'll probably keep filming, but we're having a blast at this point.
yeah. Like I mentioned, at the beginning of the podcast and even before the podcast, I up here we're not allowed to use lights, but I've watched so much of your guys' content, and it's so crazy to me, like how close you guys get them.
Oh yeah.
Because my first thought, not having, I mean, it's very foreign to me when it comes to lights and all that stuff. But you constantly hear, oh yeah, you shine a light on it, it's gone, next county over. But then seeing your guys' content of like, I watched I can't remember if it was you guys or somebody that was with you posted a video of the whole setup, you guys shining the lights and then turn back over. There's a bobcat standing like
Yeah,
5 feet
that
in
was
front of you.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the people don't realize too. I think a lot of times guys whenever they watch the show and they may run out and they'll shine a coyote and it'll turn inside out and it'll be the wrong coyote. And what they don't realize is we see the exact same thing here. And the difference is instead of saying, okay, they're not going to come to a light at all here, we just keep looking until we find the right one that hasn't seen it. Now, the difference may be between Texas versus Iowa or Michigan or wherever, there may be less of the right coyotes there. So it may be harder to find those. And in those areas, you're probably better off just going straight thermal. And that's a whole nother discussion. You know, people think that we run these lights because we're trying to portray that you'll kill more that way, and that's not the case. You're going to kill more by far, hands down, with just straight thermal. That's the bottom line. The reason we keep doing it is because of the video. We can't, no matter how good thermal gets, we cannot replicate what we can get with a high-end camera with a good lighting setup with thermal. Even if thermal got to 4K, we still can't replicate what we can get with a color camera with you can I mean we can have animals at like 10 yards and you can literally see the pupils in their eyes and the reflection of our light in their eyeballs. So until I can get that close with thermal, we're gonna keep doing kind of the same thing. These days, it's almost kind of like it's like a novelty or kind of a thing of the past because there's so many guys that were guys that ran lights before and they've kind of gotten away from them. And in fact, here last year we did a show and it was called The Experience. And the gist of the show, I don't know if you had a chance to watch that or not, but it was basically in a nutshell, it was the fact that guys from my generation, before thermal ever was, for you to basically learn the trade and basically get from okay, starting out to I can go out, shine an animal, and kill a coyote effectively with a light. You were forced to learn how to. These days, a lot of these guys, whenever they get into it, first thing they do is they run out and they buy a $3,000 or $4,000 weapon sight, throw it on their gun, and they'll start killing. So they passed go and went straight to the killing part when they don't even know, a lot of them don't even realize that you can even do this. And it's a completely different altogether. It would blow your mind if you actually saw how much light we put on some of these animals. When you get them up close, you're like, it's to this day, if you're standing there looking at it with your eyeballs, you're like, how in the world, why are these animals doing that? But we keep doing it over and over and over and over again. It's so much fun being there to just know you got one that he can't see nothing. He's completely been duped, and you got him basically working and eating out of the palm of your hand because you've taken that sense away that you can't really take away with thermal. Like thermal is never going to be able to blind a coyote,
Yep.
which is part of the reason we can control them the way we do is because they can't see, but they can hear something, and you can work them in and get them as close as you want to get them to kill them with our lights. But with thermal, you can't do that, and it's definitely a killing tool. The lights are they're more for the filming aspect of it, but setting all of that aside, that show the purpose of it was there's an experience still to be had with taking a light into a pasture, shining it around, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's a set of eyes right there glowing back at you. That part, the closest thing I can really relate that to is for somebody that likes to go fishing or something, and you've got a cork and you throw that cork out there and it's sitting there bobbing, then all of a sudden, boop, it goes underwater. That instant, ooh, that you get, that excitement that you get is the same excitement that we get when we see a set of eyes coming at you. And to take it further, once you get them in really, really close like that, and they're lit up like, I mean, there's more light on these animals than there is at high noon in the middle of the daytime once they're under 50 yards. Like literally, for me, it's kind of sad in a way because I feel like it's basically getting completely weeded out by the growth and the popularity of thermal, the pricing coming down to the point where, a lot of guys can afford it now. Um, don't get me wrong, we love thermal. We have huge sponsors that if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have all the toys and stuff that we use out there in the field. But at the end of the day, you can still go out and buy a $20 flashlight and a shotgun and some duct tape and go out into a pasture and kill a lot of coyotes and have a ball doing it that way. You can't do it in Iowa, but you can
Yeah.
here in Texas. So I just feel like that there's something to be said about the differences between the experience with just calling up a coyote and shooting it with thermal versus calling with a light, hitting a set of eyes, blinding them, and getting them in, working them in close under a light. It's just two completely different worlds. Um, and the filming side of it for us is just something that's just kind of unique to what we do, but there's still an experience. The backbone of it is that experience that I had when I was a kid and I grew up doing is what I don't want to see just completely fade away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Completely agree with you there. Yeah. With thermal growing, and I mean it's exploded over the last handful of years.
it's wild. I asked Gary that the other day. I was like, how many people do you know of that used to run lights? They were hardcore light guys that if you if you'd have asked them 10 years ago, how many of them do you think these days would have just walked completely away from lights and went straight thermal? And I told him I would have thought maybe 30, 40%, but the reality is it's probably more like 90%. That's how much thermal has just completely changed everything.
Mhm.
And it's not a bad thing at all. It's just you got old farts like me that, they grew up doing stuff that was so much fun, and I think Ronnie said something the other day, and I think I said this on that show. He's like, man, these kids, they all they got to do is just go out and just buy them a thermal, and they go out and they don't realize how much harder it was, and how much we had to go do. We go out and get out in the back of the truck and take a light and tape a coffee can to it and put some red cellophane on it because we and all like they ain't got to do all that. And I was like, and I asked them, I was like, are they lucky, or are they missing out on something completely different? And I wish these days that everybody that ever picked up a thermal and went out and shot a coyote could just experience one time what we see every time we go out and we shine these big lights on these animals. Because it's as much fun as you think it is on the screen, it's about 10 times more fun being there in person, seeing it yourself.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Say I know I got to agree with you on that though. And obviously, as I've mentioned a couple times here, up here we can't use the lights, but even if those guys that just directly dove into thermals, even if they went through like in my case and a lot of guys around here's case is we based a lot of our vacations or our basically our whole winters off of when is that first moonlit night
Hmm.
and sitting out on a field where it's nice snow covered. You got a nice moonlit night, and you can see coyotes coming in for miles.
Long way away.
And nowadays it seems like if somebody mentions full moon, everyone's like, nope, not touching that.
Can't do it. Yeah, I
And
understand.
yeah, those were the best kind of nights,
Right.
getting into them.
Well, we try not to ever portray that you have to do night hunting as far as from here's how you do it and here's how you have to do it. There's no right or wrong way for you to go out and have fun doing it. If it suits you, then man, go out and knock yourself out and keep doing it. If you think it's what you want to do and you're having a blast doing it, we're all for it. And that's the reason for the show to begin with, is because
Hey, everybody, just taking a quick second away from the podcast to talk to you about our partnership we have with 365 Thermal. 365 Thermal is an authorized thermal dealer. They carry a lot of big name brands such as Pulsar, AGM, Rix, iRay, Knockpix, Fox Pro, Two Vets, Sniper Hog Lights, and much more. Check them out on their website at 365thermal.shop. They also have a Facebook group called 365 Thermal Group. Make sure you give them a follow on their Facebook, subscribe to them on their YouTube. Our discount code is in the show description. Now back to the podcast.
back then there was, like I said, there was no thermal, so the only way to portray this stuff was through a lens and a camera with lights, and I think it's kind of a unique thing. It's even more unique now because because like for 4 or 5 years that before thermal got popular, there were some guys out there that were building similar light rigs to ours, and we're out there filming and doing that kind of stuff. And then once thermal came out, they were like, hell, we can just go out and push a button on top of a weapon sight and record everything.
Yeah.
Makes it so much easier. Well, yeah, but what you get in the end is a lot different. So we're probably just going to keep on plugging away, and we'll probably have to pry the lights out of our cold dead hands by the time it's all said and done. But we have a lot of fun doing it for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's extremely entertaining to watch. Um, yeah, it just blows my mind that I've said it already, but getting them that close just absolutely is
Here,
incredible.
if you'll bear with me a second, I'll
Yeah.
show you something. So here's how secretive these are. I'm showing you guys just so you know, these are different versions like this. We actually went from hunting out of a truck primarily to mainly once we started filming, once LEDs really got popular and the technology improved and all of that, The first light rig that we built was built to the pickup, and it weighed 50 pounds. It was heavy. You couldn't have picked it up and took it anywhere. So we were like, okay, we need to come up with a way that we can build something portable enough to where we can throw it in a pack or put it on our shoulder and hike in and out of places. And we built these little LED rigs. These basically mount up underneath the camera. That's the first. Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the first walk-in light that we built, and I think we used it in like season 4 or 5. But after we figured out that we can do the same thing from the ground, we kind of quit filming out of the truck because we figured out that when you're up high like that and an animal's coming in on the ground, we can get them closer on the ground than we can in the truck because the truck gets in the way. So being on the ground at eye level with them, man, we can milk them up to 10 feet if we really wanted to. But this was like the second, or I think that was actually the third version of that. And I'll show you the most recent one. This one's kind of the baby. Hi, baby. Can you see that?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's the one that we've been running here lately, but for the last couple of years. But we've kind of gotten to the point to where we've just kind of slowed down building the lights because the lighting will only go so far, and then it really more boils down to the camera work side of it because once they get under like 50 yards, there's so much light there that you have to deal with it. Because if you're trying to film them out at 150, you have to have a pile of light for the camera to be able to function and not have noisy video. But then the flip side of that is when you get them in close, you got to deal with all the light. Otherwise, you have like a hot spot and you can't, it's overexposed, you can't see nothing. So the lighting side of it's kind of like this is kind of it's kind of peaked, in other words. Now it's more about the quality of the camera and how we set the camera to try to get the settings on the camera to where it's not overexposed and stuff like that. So all that said, um, it's definitely a labor of love. We've got a lot of time, and we've built. There's 2 or 3 other ones that I don't have anymore. I think I sold a couple of them, but they're all so bright. Like what you see on the screen is about probably half as much light that's actually physically on them. Like to the naked eye, when you're looking at them, if you're standing out and lean over and you look at them with your eyeballs, they're so bright. But a lot of that's just because the camera has to have more than ample light to be able to get the video and stuff that we're getting.
Hey everybody, just wanted to take a quick minute to tell you about our partnership that we have with Vika. They're a premium clothing line designed by outdoor enthusiasts who are passionate about hunting and the outdoors. If you have any questions on them, don't hesitate to reach out to us directly on our page or check them out on their website at vika.com. Now, back to the podcast.
But
Yeah, I got you.
other than that, if I told somebody we were going to do this 15 years ago, we would probably get laughed off the stage. And they probably would have said there's absolute no way that you can get away with that. But I think the video pretty much does most of the talking at the end of the day. So
Yeah, definitely agree with that. So, just so I'm understanding correctly, the lights that you're showing there, specifically the one there in the background, that's the only light that you guys use, or do you have multiple of those?
this particular one is the only one. This is our main filming light uh, that we use. We've used it for the last 2 seasons. We use this camera sits right here and a headlamp to scan with to pick up eyes, and that's it. So, and this thing when it's on, it's really really bright.
Yeah.
But again, that cow is probably only looking at that one. That makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
If you stand out in front of it and I pan it left or right, you can see the individual reflectors like boom, 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 boom. As you pass your eye, basically looking into your eyeball, you can see these individual ones. So as long as I keep them in the middle of the frame, you're really only shining one light in their face at the end of the day because these are not set like this; they're set like this. basically right beside each other. That way it's just nothing but just it looks like a football stadium when they're coming in,
Yeah,
which is the idea.
yeah,
So
definitely.
you
So
would probably go to jail if you turn that on at your house.
yeah, oh, definitely.
Yeah. We've had people before. We actually took this thing up to Pennsylvania here 3 or 4 years ago to do a Red Fox show. And the guy that we went with, a guy named Luke Long, he was so hesitant because up there, there's so many houses. I thought we hunted around a lot of houses and stuff here, but when we got up there, we pulled into a spot to make a stand, and he's like, "Okay, you can't shine that way, and you can't shine that way, but you got to shine right here in the middle." So I'm like, "Okay, well, what happens if the fox pops up over here?" So we were literally having to shine them with the dim headlamp until they got past a house, and then turn it on. And if they ever ran out of that, we'd have to turn the light off because there was just so many houses and stuff around there. He said, "You shine a house around here, you'll have plenty of Karens coming out knocking on the door." So
Yeah. So that's my next question that I got. I've talked to quite a few people doing this podcast, and some of them have been gotten into the running the lights and all that stuff. Um, do you when you're running lights, do you have to constantly keep it on, or does it make a difference if you turn it on and off?
100%. The the best scenario that I could tell you, the best way I can kind of describe this is from a learning experience of my own. Um, Long story short, I had a buddy of mine out of Greenville, right down the road from our house, and he was always kicking our butt in these coyote contests. He would have 10, 15 coyotes, and we'd come in with one or two. What we were experiencing is we'd be calling, trying to hide our light. Got to sit in the dark. I don't want to scare anything off with this light because we got to hide it from them. If they see it, they're going to bolt. Well, what we were doing, we'd call, shine a little bit, turn the light off. Call, shine a little bit, and turn the light off. And looking back on it, there's no telling how many ones we had come in and leave before we didn't even know that we called something up. But inevitably, when we would happen to turn it on when one was coming, 99 out of 100 of them would just throw the brakes on and stop right wherever they're at whenever we hit them with it, or they would tuck tail and run the other way. And I finally asked him, I was like, well, how in the world are you guys killing these coyotes? Because every time we turn the light on, he's like, they just freeze or hang up and just run the other way. And that was before thermal. So you're talking about they've got to be within 150 yards at the least to shoot them with a traditional day scope and a red light, because this was before the white light days.
Mhm.
So he was like, "Well, are you leaving your light on or are you turning it off?" And I said, "Well, of course we're turning it off. I mean, why would I turn it on and leave it on?" And he's like, "Well, you got to leave your light on." He's like, "How are you going to see him coming if you just turn your light off?" And I'm thinking, this guy's an idiot. What's this guy know? He's an old guy. And then I thought, well, he's kicking our butt. So I thought next time I go out, I'm going to try just turning the light on and leaving the light on the entire time. And he said, just turn it on, start calling, and shine 360 degrees pretty fast because you're not looking for a body. All you're looking is that pop of a reflector from their eyeballs. So I called, I was by myself, and I had a 12 gauge and a handheld little flashlight. Started calling. 30 seconds in, I hit a bobcat and I started to turn it off. It was like I had to turn it off because I didn't want to scare this cat, you know. I thought, nope, I'm gonna see what happens. I turn it, I scan it, boom, there he is. I hit him with this light, and lo and behold, the cat kept on coming the whole way in. And I shot him with the shotgun. I think I had the light like this and the shotgun over my hand like that. He ended up shooting this really pretty bobcat. Well, at that point in time, it was just like maybe the guy actually knew what he was talking about. And I've thought about that 1,000 times since then, just looking back on it. And I'm like, why would it be any different turning your light on and off versus keeping it on the whole time? The only thing that I can think of is like when you pull out in a field and you think of coyotes and some timber or something or a creek that you're trying to get them out of, and you start scanning. When that coyote gets to the point to where he can see what he thinks he's hearing, and that light's already there, he basically has a decision to make instinctively. Either he keeps coming because he doesn't recognize that light's danger, like he's been educated to it, uh, or he's going to see that light and tuck tail and run the other way. Well, if that same coyote and you're sitting there in the dark, okay, he pops up in that field and thinks he can see what he's hearing, and all of a sudden, halfway across that field, this light comes on. There's a change happening there. And what we were seeing is these coyotes, they get as soon as the light comes on, you could tell they were coming. It was just like throw on the brakes, stop and look at you, or run the other way. Well, these days, once they pop out, if you shine fast enough, once you hit them, they're either going to be the right coyote or the wrong coyote. But like I said, there's not a whole lot in between. The wrong ones have probably seen it. They're going to tuck tail and run no matter how bright or whatever color lights you got. But the ones that haven't seen it, those are the ones that you just keep it on them the whole time. And as long as you don't screw something up or they wind you or make a noise or something like that, you can get them right over wherever you need them to kill them. So we did a show. I think it was season 4 or season 5. It was night hunting. I think it was night hunting 101.
If you're spending time outdoors, you need gear that actually keeps up, and Reese Outdoors delivers. Their chest packs are straight up badass, tough, comfortable, and built to keep your essentials right where you need them. No digging, no slowing down, just grab and go. Whether you're hiking, hunting, or out on the water, Reese Outdoors chest packs move with you. Want one? Reach out to us on our Facebook page at Midwest Coyote Pursuit and get yours.
And we sat down and came up with a list of like the 5 basic, from the bottom end basic, 5 things that we think are the most important things to help a guy get through the learning curve to be able to increase their success with lights. And the number one thing on there was you got to leave the light on. That's pretty much that is your main weapon that you have against a predator at night when you're running lights. Is the light is your friend. Don't hide it, because the second that you turn it off, guess what you did? You gave them back the advantage that you took away from them by taking their sight away. If you're running lights, if you're running straight thermal, it's a totally different game. But with lights, you have to have a light in their face and you have to take their sight away to the point where they want to keep coming to the sound that they're hearing. And that's, in a nutshell, that's basically the gist of being able to call predators with lights. And once you see it happen the first time, even guys that have ran thermal, I know a bunch of guys that have run thermal that were light guys. I've seen a bunch of them take their old lights, pull their old lights out, and just go back to using them from time to time just to see that same experience that they had before the thermal. Because you don't really realize that it's gone until you think about it. It's like, I want to go back and see some eyes. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So
it looks like a blast. Like I said, I wish we could do it up here because I mean, yeah, the footage that you guys put out is absolutely incredible.
we appreciate
I've
it.
had a heck of a time getting a. I've mentioned this a ton of times on the podcast. I've had a heck of a time getting a bobcat.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you
so
need
I
to come to
got
Texas.
I that's what I keep hearing. You guys are pretty rich with them.
We had and this was back when we were doing the DVDs. The best year that we ever had, we killed 33. And that was all within about 100 miles of my house. And back then, there was a whole lot more bobcats around here than there are now. We got to the point to where we had filmed so many of them, unless they were big, like a big tom, and we got up close video of them. We were just letting a bunch of them just walk, just because we killed so many. Well, these days we're probably averaging anywhere from 10 to 15, somewhere in that ballpark. And a lot of the times, a lot of the cats and stuff that we end up killing, a lot of them are in contests, believe it or not. A lot of these hunts around here, cats are worth more than the coyotes. So some of our cat stands that are not really laid out good to film, we'll save a lot of those for predator hunts. But there's a there's definitely a lot of cats in Texas. They're not as big as probably the cats that you guys have, but we'll get them around here 25 pounds, 27 pounds in our area. You go further south, down in like hill country in West Texas, they'll have some 30 plus pounders out that way, but they're still pretty.
Oh yeah,
um,
yeah. See, I've seen a lot of the ones that get taken out of Texas, and they
oh
definitely
yeah.
have some pretty colors to them, pretty patterns.
Yeah. We don't have as many of the ones that have those big giant leopard spots on them in North Texas. But every now and then we'll get a real pretty one like that. But they're still not as furred up. You really to get a good one around here, you'd have to really kill one in like February to March. That's when they're kind of in their prime around here. But I've never killed a 30 pounder. I mean, we've killed hundreds of cats, and the biggest cat that we've ever killed around here was 27 and a half pounds. And that's a monster for around here. But I'm kind of always jealous of the guys that are up north killing those 35 pounders that are just giant big monsters with a big old head, stuff like that's what I would love to do. But I had never been able to break away and to go do it, I guess.
Yeah, so we've got some big ones up around here. I got into the thermal here going on a little over 2 years ago, and I got, of course, you buy your first thermal, and then well, what's the next best one, and you just keep going. And it's a vicious circle.
Yeah.
The second scope that I had, I got it sighted in and went out. I had a landowner call me and say, "Hey, I got this really nice bobcat, keeps popping up on trail camera. Go take care of it."
Right.
So I go out there and I take a shot. I've hunted this ground. So I started off deer hunting on this ground when I was real little. And so I knew the lay of the land, but I caught eyes on that cat, took two shots at him, missed both shots. He turned
You
around
got a
and
little
walked.
cat fever?
Oh, yeah. I missed both shots and he turned around and walked on some ground that I didn't have permission on. The next
Ah,
day, somebody else shot him that next morning.
no kidding. Pretty
Yeah.
big.
Oh, yeah. I want to say they weighed him and he was like 30 or 31 pounds.
Jeez Louise,
Yeah.
man.
He was a
That's
big cat.
well, the guy that we hunt with in Pennsylvania, he was trying to get me to go up to Maine and hunt some of the cats up there, and he was showing me pictures of cats that were north of 40.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, freaking nature big. And I'm like, man, that would be like the hunt or kill of a lifetime for me because our cats, I mean, I've got five cats mounted, I think, in my office, and every one of them are 23 to 25 pounds. So I'm one of these days I'm gonna kill one of them great big giant ones like you guys said. I'll probably have to go up there to do it, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
do it one of these days.
Heck yeah. Yeah. So that brings me to my next question. You got, obviously, you guys go after a lot of coyotes, a lot of bobcats. Is there any other predators that you guys are going after down there?
In Texas, not so much. It's usually coyotes or cats. I mean, 99 out of 100 times, but occasionally we'll call up a fox in this area. Um, Used to, there was more fox in this area until the coyotes really kind of took over. But for the most part, the places in Texas where you have a lot of coyotes, you don't have a whole lot of fox, and vice versa. Like down in the hill country, there's places that you can go and call in 50 to 100 grays in a night. Like they're infested with them, but there's hardly any coyotes in those places. So that's more down south in central Texas and in the hill country. But around here, if you go and make a stand and you see a set of eyeballs, it's going to likely be a coyote or a bobcat. So still chasing the elusive mountain lion. We have those from time to time, but we've never called one. I know guys further south that have called them up and killed them around there, but I've seen one about 20 years ago. I saw one about 2 miles from my house. Didn't really know for sure what I was looking at until it was standing about 20 yards in front of me. Yeah, and I froze and I looked at it for I was trying to process what I was seeing. We were actually pig hunting, and I had a 12 gauge, and my dad and his buddy went down a creek, and I'm sitting there on one side of the creek. My buddy's sitting kind of around a bend, and they're pushing these pigs down the creek to us. So they're hollering, hooting, and basically making a bunch of racket trying to push these pigs towards us. About that time, I hear this going down to this little trail on the side of the creek, And I squared up with it and I looked at it and I was like, it popped out finally. And I was like, I didn't know what I was really looking at. When it seen me, it bailed off into a dry creek bed, had a tail about yay long, and in one giant leap, or really two, it went from the bottom of the creek bed to 20 feet higher. It went so graceful, just went right over the top, and it was gone before I could even think to shoot it. So that was the only real life experience I've ever seen a big cat that I know for sure was a mountain lion. But we have them from time to time, kind of roaming through some of the creeks and stuff in this area. But it's like actually lining it up where you're sitting there holding a rifle with, something you can actually kill it and you know what you're looking at. We haven't had that happen yet.
Yeah,
So
that's
pipe
definitely
dreams there.
yeah. So that's definitely my bucket list item is a mountain lion.
Yeah. But what else you got?
Well, my next question that I got for you, what's the best advice that you can give someone that's getting into the nighttime side of things for light hunting?
For hunting with lights?
Yep.
Uh, Probably the best advice that I can give to somebody if they're hunting with lights that's not from a place like Texas or a place that's got a really good population of coyotes is to either, well, I would say definitely go with someone who knows what they're doing the first time you do it. And B, go to somewhere where you know there's a good population there that will teach you once you find the right animal, the light becomes irrelevant. And once you cross that hurdle mentally, that allows you to go wherever it is that you're from and know that when you hit that coyote that turns inside out and runs the other way, you got two options. You can either keep looking for the right coyote and keep running the lights, or just switch to thermal and start killing with thermal. It just depends on what you're after. If you think you can run lights and get away with it, some guys, they don't even know that because they've never tried. But main thing is just go to a place where it's kind of like there's a lot of coyotes there, and you have a really good likelihood that if you call one up, it's going to cooperate to where you can physically see how this works. Because until you've seen that mentally, it's harder to explain it to a guy that's never seen that, and they take a light out in their backyard and they call up a coyote and it doesn't act that way, that it's even possible there. That's one a lot of times when guys they see our video, they're like, man, you take that light up here, they're turning inside out and running the next county, and it's like, well, how many coyotes have you shined since you've lived there? I mean, have you tried to actually go and try different areas or try to find particular coyotes that are in different places that may not be that type of coyote? I fully believe somewhere in every state, there's going to be a coyote that will come to a light. It's just a matter of you being able to find it and if it's worth the effort to go and find it versus just going to thermal. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So go out. It's kind of like taking somebody fishing for the first time. You don't want to take them out and be like, man, this is so much fun. And then you go out and you don't catch jack squat. Take somebody out to a place where they're going to actually see animals come into lights and how they act towards them, and then let them experience that. And then say, okay, I can go try this at home and just see what happens at home. If they take the same thing, because we've done it not in just Texas, we've hunted Kansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania. Uh, where else have we been? New Mexico. We've taken the same light and done the exact same thing in those states that we do here. Some, like I said, some of the places was harder to find the right cow, but once we found it, it came in just like the ones do here at home. So for us, it's just a matter of if I was going to go teach somebody or if they're just getting started into it, go and hire them a guide or something somewhere. Take an outfitter or something that runs lights, which is really hard to find these days. But somebody that's experienced and knows how to do it, go with that person, see how it's done, and then go try it for yourself, just knowing that you've got that confidence in the tank because you've seen it work. once you've seen it work, that's what would motivate me if I'm a new guy thinking, okay, well, if they can do that there, that's not hard. Let's go try it and see what happens around my house. And that's what I would suggest.
Gotcha. Yeah, like I
So,
said, it's definitely something that would be a very cool experience to be a part of because yeah, it's foreign up here.
oh yeah, the light deal around here. Guy asked us the other day. He was just like, how often do people like stop or call y'all in, or the game warden show up, and this and that and the other around here? And he's like, because I literally have to put a sign on the back of my truck that says, "We are night hunters. We have permission to be here. Basically, leave us alone." Essentially, is what
Mhm.
it is. And in a way, I think because Texas is such a big night hunting state, for one, and secondly, you can't miss our truck with the rig on it. People that have lived here long enough, the places we hunt, they know who we are, and usually if they see the truck parked on the side of the road or they see a light out in a pasture, they know what we're there doing, So we don't have a lot of trouble, but places that's not used to that, by God, you turn a light on out in a pasture, you're definitely poaching deer. You're doing something you're not supposed to be.
Yeah,
So I get that part of it, and I'm thankful that it's really not, knock on wood, we just don't have hardly any of that in this place. We're kind of spoiled in that regard.
yeah,
So
I would definitely say so.
hell, if you guys are ever down Texas way, just holler at us. Y'all can ride tag along one night with us. We're
Yeah,
always going.
yeah, we'll definitely have to.
If we call up a cat, might have to kill you a first cat.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. We had a guy, I guess it's been 3 or 4 years ago now. All he wanted to do was kill him a bobcat. And it was a year that we were having a hard time seeing cats. Like it was just a slow year. We had made hundreds of stands and hadn't seen a cat yet. And I told him, I was like, man, I'm just letting you know, you're more than welcome to go, but we haven't seen a cat all year. He's like, I just want to go and try to kill a bobcat. That night, we ended up calling in like 4 cats. And instead of killing one, I think he ended up killing 3 of them. But you just never know. I mean, around here, it's just a matter of just being at the right place at the right time.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that would be sweet. Well, Chris, where can I send all the listeners to check you guys out?
probably the easiest thing is just send them to our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search Night Crew, and it'll bring it right up. And hopefully, I've given you a little bit of backstory and not rambled too much. But
No, say it was all great information. Like I said, it's very cool to learn how different people or how people hunt differently. Like up around here, we're predominantly either day hunting or thermal hunting
yep.
because yeah, lights are a no up here.
Yeah, what is interesting is what I do like is a lot of these states, there's a trend that's for the last 8 to 10 years or so has been going towards pro night hunting. And for a long time, there was a lot of states like South Dakota and some of the guys that we know up there that helped get the laws changed and whatnot to be able to let guys go out there and actually enjoy this stuff. That's a positive thing, whether it be just lights or letting guys hunt with thermal, however we can get the ball rolling our direction, I'm all for it. Be it just lights or just thermal or both or however it is, as long as there's a way that guys that are in a particular state, if they want to go night hunt, guess what? You've got a season or you've got an ability to go and do that now, whereas opposed 10 years ago, it was like, heaven forbid, it's a cardinal sin to actually shoot a coyote at nighttime, which is absolutely bonkers for me because I literally me and my dad shot our first bobcat when I was 8 years old, and we were shining lights. It was before we knew it. We were complete sheer luck that we actually ended up killing the thing. But ever since I was a little kid, that's all I've ever known. It's like this is the way you do it. It's Texas. It's nighttime, and we're gonna run some lights. I'm still stuck there, but uh, we're still having a lot of fun doing it. I tell you that.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
So
Chris, I really appreciate you getting on with me tonight.
sure, man, I appreciate you having us on. And like I said, you're probably not going to see me too much on the show. You'll end up seeing more Gary and Ronnie and whatnot, but that's kind of where I like to be. I like to be the guy behind the camera instead of the guy in front of it. So
Well, I'm glad I could get you in on this rare occasion then.
yeah, no trouble. And like I said, if you guys ever want to make a trip down to Texas, if you're all out this way, just holler and tag along one night. Can't promise you it's going to be any good, but only way you can find out is to go and just see what happens.
Yep, you can't kill him on the couch.
Nope, that's exactly right. I
All
know
right.
I said that one time.
Absolutely.
All right, man. I
Well,
appreciate it.
yeah, I appreciate everybody for listening.